So the trailers for Super 8 in typical J.J. Abrams fashion, at least, similar to what the Cloverfield trailers were like, didn't give away much other than establishing mystery surrounding like this train crash that happens in a small town. Um, the 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 trailer mostly what it was there for is to give you a Spielberg boner, and I definitely did get a Spielberg boner from the trailer. You had this vibe coming from it that was going to be like an old Spielberg type, like an homage to old Spielberg, like like E.T., Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Um, and having finally seen the film, I think that J.J. Abrams' Super 8 does deliver on that promise for the most part. I thought it was good, and it was a good homage to the old Spielberg films. But I mean, it does kind of come with its own pros and cons, I guess. Definitely more pros than cons. I'll tell you that. I wish more movies were like Super 8. More summer movies were like Super 8, and not like Transformers. But yeah, it's classic Spielberg. Right down to the themes. It's a group of kids. They're dealing with neglect from their family, and they have their familial issues. Um, and they find strength in each other, and they together they go on an adventure together. And then there's like sci-fi stuff going on in the background, and that's exactly what this movie is. It does feel like a cross between E.T. and Close Encounters with definitely like a healthy dose of the Goonies thrown in. And I guess what I mean by that is the group of kids, they just feel like a good group of like adolescent friends, like the kids in the Goonies did, or the kids in Stand by Me did. They're real kids, and the setting helps too. It's a small Ohio town, and it's 1979, and it's just a different age. It's an age where kids used to ride around on their bikes, and all didn't have cell phones. They all weren't on Facebook and Twitter. Um, they're just good, innocent kids in a more innocent time. Um, and there's just something about that. It just strikes the nostalgia bone in you. But it's about these kids. They're making a zombie flick. They're shooting it on a Super 8 camera, which is what you get the name of the film from. They're making this movie for like a film festival. And one night they sneak out. One of them steals her dad's car, and they drive out to like a train station. You know, out in like a rural area of their town, and they're shooting this scene at a train station, and then there's this crazy train crash, and then the military shows up, and crazy weird things start going on around town. Dogs start disappearing, people start dying, and spoilers, something dangerous escaped from the train. It's essentially a monster movie. Spoiler. There's a monster on the loose in the town, but really, that's not really a spoiler because the real, I think, fireworks here are not is not the sci-fi stuff. I think it's actually the weakest part of the movie. Um, the the strength is the kids. The main character is Joe Lamb, played by Joel McCourtney. He's a boy his mother's recently died in an accident at her work, and his father, who is Cal Chandler, who is the coach in Friday Night Lights. He's busy being the town deputy. He doesn't have time for his son. He doesn't seem to understand his son. Um, so that's the main character. He's dealing with grief, and he's dealing with a father who is kind of absent a little bit. And then his likable group of friends. There's a girl named Alice, played by Elle Fanning. She's like the pretty girl who they get to play in the movie as the wife in the zombie flick. And then his buddy Charles, who's basically the chunk of this movie. He's the chubby kid, uh, and he's the aspiring filmmaker. He's the director. He's the auteur of like the little movie that they're making. And then you have the other kids that they're not fleshed out that well. Like there's one kid who loves fireworks, and there's another kid who vomits anytime he's nervous. It's broad strokes, but for these supporting kids and stuff, but it works. Um, and the kids are the best part. I thought the actors, they're extremely talented, um, and they feel like Spielberg kids. They feel like kids of that era. Um, Joel McCourtney is really good. The main character, not a false note in him. Elle Fanning really good, and the chubby kid Riley Griffiths, he's really good. The kids are naturals. And I think the drama that happens between them and their parents that forms the heart of Super 8, and that's the reason to see Super 8. Um, the magic isn't in the special effects; it's the characters. The magic's in a scene where the boy Joe and the girl Alice, they sit there and watch an old home movie together. Really emotional scene. Um, or in the scene where Charles, the chubby kid, he says his doctor says that he's going to lean out eventually, and then hopefully he'll become attractive to girls. It really kind of like a heartbreaking scene, um, but honest and also funny. It's funny and heartbreaking at the same time, and just human. Which you don't get out of a lot of like summer blockbuster type movies anymore. As for like the sci-fi element and you know the the monster stuff that's going on, it's not as quite it's not quite as interesting as the human drama. Um, I don't think it ever should be. I think it should always be kind of background to the characters, and the movie makes note of this too, because they're making a movie within the movie, this zombie film, and the director, the chubby kid Charles, he's like, we have to have characters because that's what makes it a story. You know, the zombies and all that stuff doesn't matter. That's just the plot. That's the action. Without the characters, it's not a story. And that's the way it always should be. I think that the sci-fi stuff shouldn't be as good as the characters in something like this. You know, the only way you're gonna care about the action or what's happening is if you care about the characters first. And so they nail that. It's just there, I think, was potential for the monster stuff, the sci-fi stuff that's going on, to be better, to make more sense. I mean, it makes sense, but some of it kind of feels random. It doesn't feel fleshed out. And when you find out what's going on, it doesn't feel particularly creative or new. It feels very, I mean, maybe it's still homage, but it feels very like, routine, like this has been done a billion times. Um, but like I said, it's secondary to the characters, and it does what the monster stuff that's going on does gain strength from the characters. Um, and that's kind of goes into like what the other major drawback to the film is, and this is an inherent drawback. There's no way of avoiding it. Is it's such good homage to early Spielberg that it's almost too good. It doesn't take any risks, and because it's not taking too many risks with like the genre subgenre that it's imitating, and imitating very well, because it doesn't take the risks, it feels all very safe. Every beat that's gonna happen in it, and so you don't ever really feel that certain people are in peril, or when they are in peril, it doesn't. You just feel safe. Uh, it doesn't feel like when you know every beat that's gonna happen. It's hard to feel the suspense sometimes. It's a weird thing for me to nitpick, but it is kind of like the movie's a little too cozy. Um, I would like to see a couple risks taken here or there. I mean, it's still a very well told story and a nice homage, and and not just homage, but it's good story in its own right. It's just it could have been a few more risky things thrown in here and there. Maybe do homage, but update the genre for us to make it feel fresh somehow. Um, Not disappointing in any way though. Honestly, it's kind of hard to complain and nitpick about that because I wish more movies were like this. It made me long for a time when movies did have this much heart and magic in them. And there was still like I did get emotionally involved in it, and there's a moment near the end that I thought was very touching. Um, Bottom line is I'll take when it comes down to it, I'll take sincerity over irony any day, even if it's homage. Uh, would like to see a little more risks here and there taken, but as just homage and as you know, feeding your need for nostalgia and servicing your Spielberg boner, it definitely got the job done. If you saw the trailer and you're like, oh yeah, it looks like old Spielberg and I gotta see that, well, you do have to see it. Um, I recommend it to anyone out there that wants to see a good summer movie. And while it does contain pretty scary elements and kind of adult material here and there, I recommend it for all ages. I think kids would love this movie. I think it would be a change of pace from the crap they're used to seeing. So, anyways, I give Super 8 4 out of 5 stars. You could catch my other audio review with my co-host Chris Scott on Movie Dudes. It's available on Vagary.tv and iTunes, as well as many other reviews. We're reviewing all as many big summer movies as we can. Whatever I don't see, Chris tends to see all of it. So if you're looking for a new movie podcast to listen to, I recommend Movie Dudes. Not just because I'm one of the creators of it, but because we'll give you some stuff to watch and we'll give you thoughts on stuff that's recent. So, anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you around next time. Who knows when that is?